Khaled Kteily. I'm the founder and CEO of Legacy. We're a digital fertility clinic for men. And today in the episode, we talk about male fertility, a topic you probably don't know a lot about, but there's a lot of exciting stuff in there, from scalding hot tea to waiting rooms at sperm banks. You name it, we got it. But learn a little bit more about this biomarker for your overall health, how to make it better, and how you should be planning for your future ever forward.
3, 2, 1.
This is a topic that I'm really excited to dive into, especially for my guys out there. But I'm sure, as we'll get into, women in our life are going to be playing a key role into this. We talk a lot about here on the show, health, wellness, things that can increase your longevity, increase your vitality, energy, all these things so that we can live long, productive lives. Well, today we're going to be talking about reproductive lives. So Khaled, I'm so excited to have you here, man. I should have been recording this the whole time, man. You get a great storyteller and a great origin for this key component to male health and wellness, man. So welcome.
Thanks, Chase. Pleasure to be here, and thank you for having me.
It's not like any other guest I've had where I can say, thank God you scalded your male reproductive organs, or else we wouldn't be here.
They healed for anyone listening, fully healed, tip-top shape.
Like I'll just say, so many guests here, we have an origin story, and so many people listening. There's one thing that happened in our life, or a series of events that tested or questioned our health, our wellness, our physical ability. And we decided that I'm not going to settle for this. I want more. So we dug deep, and we have decided to put forth the effort every day. Yeah. You had a other type of origin story when it comes to your health. Can you take us back to that moment in Tulsa, Oklahoma?
Oof. All right. Let's get geographic.
If you can relive the trauma.
Yeah, no, it's all right. I've processed the trauma since, but it was a moment. So I'll start, Chase, just by saying that I don't know if any guy that has grown up dreaming of starting a male fertility company. I think I wanted to be a soccer player, which I think is much more natural for kids that age. But there are these moments in your life that take you sometimes down unexpected paths. And for me, that path started in Tulsa, Oklahoma. So I was working in health and life sciences consulting at the time. I was on a client project there, and I was part of a team of 4 or 5 folks. And we're driving to our client site, bright and early, 7:30, 8 in the morning. And we decide to make a quick Starbucks run. So as the most junior person on the team, I say, hey guys, I got this. Let me go in and pick everything up. What do you all want? So everyone wanted some scaldingly hot teas and coffees. I said, okay, great. And so walk in, they had freshly brewed, some beverages for us. And I get those, for coffees and teas, jump back into the car, sitting in the passenger seat with all the, this cup holder on my lap, holding these 4 coffees. So driving down the highway in Tulsa, Oklahoma, someone in front of us brakes very suddenly. We have to brake very suddenly. And thanks to the forces of inertia, those very, very hot beverages land all over my lap. It rips the skin clean off. I get 2nd-degree burns. In retrospect, for everyone who was not me, it was a very funny moment because I was wearing a suit and tie. I jumped out of the car by the side of the highway, ripped my suit pants off, right? Still wearing my shirt, blazer, and tie, right? I was like a mullet, like serious up top and then party down below. And apparently 8 or 9 cars stopped to actually watch what was happening, this crazy dude by the side of the road. But so the summary of this is, so I was actually pretty badly injured. So thankfully 2nd-degree burns healed, but it took about a month and a half. It was extremely painful. I was hospitalized. I was on pain medication. And I think for anyone who has an accident like that, especially anything that affects your genital area, you say to yourself, well, oh my God, like, thank God that I can still have kids. Thank God that wasn't worse, because what if that was a more severe burn or a permanent burn? And this is kind of what set me down this path of thinking, well, I know that I want to be a husband and a father someday, and you talk a lot about mindset on Ever Forward, and I very much had the mindset of, I want to be someone who's in his, 30s, getting married, having kids. I want to build a family of my own. And the risk of losing that was felt pretty severe. So it was around this time, actually, I was winding down my job and I was going off to start my master's at the Kennedy School at Harvard. And I start my master's program. I meet a classmate who's there, and he's telling us a story about, when he was 30 years old, he was diagnosed with cancer, and his doctor recommended that before he started chemotherapy, he freeze his sperm. And it was one of those moments because, again, I had just had this scaldingly, excruciatingly bad accident, just a few months prior. He's telling me about a concept that I've never heard of before, sperm freezing. And I look at him, like, can anyone do it? He says, yeah, I think so. Do I need permission? Do I need a doctor's note? Do I need a prescription? He's like, no, just go find somewhere. And I ask him, okay, well, how much does it cost? And he says, it's about $1,000. I say, okay, well, it's not cheap, but it is doable. And so that's what I did. So I look up, I literally Google, local sperm bank in Cambridge, Massachusetts, found the local sperm bank. It was right next door to my favorite Chinese restaurant. So you can really kind of smell the sesame chicken to get you excited as you're walking in.
Which I got to know, when they're putting that location in there, there was nothing else, no other strip mall, no other business center. But you know what? Right next to General Tso's, carry out, we're gonna
the dumpling house, actually, the dumpling house.
You will never forget that, no doubt.
I will never forget that.
Wow.
And so, I walk in and I'm kind of set on this idea of, okay, I'm going to do it myself. So, you walk in, you meet with a receptionist, and they hand you a form that you have to fill out, which, among other very intimate questions they ask you, why are you freezing your sperm with us? Why are you banking your sperm? Is it because you have cancer and you're starting chemotherapy? Is it because you're getting a vasectomy and you want to freeze your sperm beforehand? Or is it because you're transitioning to become a woman and you want to freeze your sperm before you do? And I look at them and I say, well, I don't think any of the three. I just,
none of the above.
None of the above, just proactively. I think it's a good idea. And they looked at me like I was the weird guy. And so they hand you, what they call the specimen cup. They always refer to your sperm as the specimen, which till this day I find just really icky, for lack of a classier word. And they lead you to the small room. And, the small room has a black leather couch and it's got magazines on the table and it's got VHS tapes. And, you can, the door is closed, but you don't know if it locked properly. And, you can hear footsteps right outside in the hallway.
Which is probably taking you back to like every blanket statement here. Every teenage boy's like worst nightmare, when like you think like, shit, is my mom coming in my room? Like you discover your first like dirty magazine. You're like, come on. It's like,
yeah, basically. And I later found out, by the way, the tapes and the magazines get stolen all the time.
Oh, I can imagine.
All the time, which I just found hilarious. So, and you have kind of 10 minutes to produce the sample. There's someone coming in after you. There's someone who just came in before you. So the whole thing is just, really awkward. So I did my thing, plenty of time to spare, came out, handed them the specimen cup, walked out of there. And, and as I was sharing earlier, but, I had three very strong feelings coming out of that. The first was, this was the single most awkward experience that I have maybe ever had as a man. And again, I run a male fertility company. I am not an awkward guy. I am very comfortable with a lot of things, but that still stands out as maybe the most awkward experience of my life.
Wow.
The second was, it's a very profound feeling. This idea that, you can now have kids for the rest of your life, no matter what happens, no matter if you get in an accident, no matter if you get sick, no matter if you get fat and old. You have just preserved your youngest, healthiest sperm. That means that you can have healthy kids in the future. And that actually was a very profound moment. And then the third part was, and this idea stayed with me for a long time, which is just, man, if you create a product that is affordable, that is private, that is well branded, that is normalized, why wouldn't every guy want to do this? If you paid a couple $100, right, and $100 a year for storage, why on earth wouldn't you do this? And this was the idea that stayed with me for so long. And I started telling my friends this idea. I mean, they called me the sperm king. They made so many jokes at my expense.
I can imagine the nicknames that came rolling out.
God. Puns in every sentence. The puns just kept coming. There were millions and millions of them. And so, but this idea, I was just so convinced it was a great idea. And I say till today, I am a one-hit wonder with entrepreneurship. This is my only good idea. So I got to make sure that I do it right. And so then in 2017, the study comes out, and this book just came out called Countdown by Dr. Shauna Swan. It comes out and it shows, and it proves very definitively that male fertility has gone down, sperm counts and sperm concentration have gone down by 50 to 60% over the last 40 years.
Mm.
And that is the kind of data point that is going to make any guy sit up and pay attention. I mean, the people who are listening to Everforward are, fitness focused, they're healthy, they're thinking about their nutrition, they're thinking about their exercise. But what many of these men who are listening don't know is that we as men are all about half as fertile as our dads or granddads were at our age. And
What?
that is just a function of the chemicals around us, the fertilizers in our food, the changes in our lifestyles, all of these factors that are causing sperm counts to go down every single year. And the hypothesis of the book Countdown is that at the rate that we're going on right now, we basically would reach sperm count zero in about 50 or 60 years. And so
It goes that dramatically.
I mean, you have to make some assumptions.
We're looking at the trends and the patterns. I'm sure it's somewhat
If,
of an assumption, but
it definitely is an assumption. I don't think anyone thinks that the sperm counts will actually go to zero, but the trend line is just pretty steep, which just means that within a matter of decades, sperm counts are going to be so low that the average couple might actually have to go through the IVF process in order to be able to have kids. Like men might not be able to conceive naturally ever again.
that
So
could
if you've
be
ever
a reality we are facing.
you ever watched Children of Men or Handmaid's Tale? It kind of
Yeah.
talks about what a future like that would look like. And so again, this is something far in the future, but these are the trends. It's clear that something that in the world that we are living in is deeply, deeply wrong. So, and I think we should come back to this topic of what's causing the decline, because it is such an interesting one to unpack. But the study came out at the time I was living in Geneva, Switzerland. I had a very comfortable job working at the World Economic Forum, and but I had been planning to launch Legacy for months and months, working evenings and weekends. And so, study comes out, I sit my boss down and I say, hey, I'm quitting and I'm moving to Boston and I'm starting a male fertility company. And he just looked at me kind of incredulously, like, who is this guy and how is this happening?
He's like, Khaled, you're not allowed to drink on the job. All right.
Yeah.
You clearly go home,
exactly.
sleep it off.
Exactly. Sleep it off. But no, I told him I'm absolutely serious. Packed my bags, left, quit my job, left the country, moved back to Boston. And then May 19, 2018 was the first day I started working on Legacy full time. And that was the origin. That was the origin of Legacy.
Hell of an origin story. I mean, I'm enthralled even the second time now I'm hearing this, and I can only imagine what the listener is. They're just probably driving or on the treadmill, just jaw on the floor. I love that story. But the first thing that comes to mind for me in hearing that, man, is I think you're talking about what's crazy going on in the world. And I think one of the craziest things right now, and we've seen this in the healthcare system for many, many years, is that when someone comes to their primary care provider, their, walk in, walk out clinic kind of thing, it's usually only for something acute or something severe. We're trying to prevent something or treat something, but you actually presented because you had prevention in your mind. You were trying to get ahead of it. What was it like, kind of coming up, not only take away the entrepreneur side and the business development, but you had an idea of your future health in mind, and you were struggling, hearing to kind of like find a service that was meeting that need. Can you kind of walk us through this idea of prevention and the struggle that you had?
I love this question in particular because I think a lot of your listeners care a lot about their health, their fitness. They want to be the best version of themselves. Truly. And this is something that I think about a lot. Like, how can I be the best version of myself, not just as an entrepreneur, but as a partner, as a son, as a human being for society. I mean, it's just, it really is this mindset. And you talk a lot about always moving ever forward. How do you make sure that you are moving forward in a way that is going to get you to become the kind of person that you want to become? And for me, I saw something that I very much wanted to do in the future, which is have kids of my own. And I think inherently it's an extremely narcissistic trait for all of us, because we want kids that kind of look like us, right? I would love a kid that looks half like me, or even 100% like me.
That's the goal, right? At least half, sure.
That is the goal. And for me, it was, well, even today, our biggest competitor is actually traditional clinics, traditional fertility clinics, because men think about healthcare solutions to healthcare problems. But it is a rare type of man who is thinking for the future, who wants to be the best version of himself, and who wants to be watching what he eats, watching how he exercises, and preserving his sperm to make sure that he has frozen his youngest, healthiest sperm, so that no matter what happens, he's able to use it in the future.
What can you speak on to that in terms of the things that we do that directly
Yeah,
contribute to
yeah,
enhancing our fertility or even
yeah,
honestly just maintaining?
yeah, yeah. So I'll start with some of the bad news before I get to the good news.
All right, let's rip the
Yeah.
band-aid off. Sure, let's go there.
So I mentioned fertility counts are down about 50% over the last 40 years. The second is that as you get older, the quality of your sperm goes down every year you get older. And so actually you get more and more genetic mutations in the DNA in your sperm as you get older. And because we as men are continuously producing sperm, the number, as opposed to women who are born with all the eggs they'll ever have, we have a rate of genetic mutations that is about 4 times higher in our sperm than women do in their eggs.
Wow.
And what this
Wow.
translates to is that for older dads, and particularly when we start looking at 35 or 40 and older, you are simply going to have more trouble conceiving naturally with your partner. Your partner is more likely to have a miscarriage. And then your child is more likely to have congenital conditions like autism or otherwise. And this basically keeps going up and up as you get older and older. And
All
so
right, Khaled,
even
we need
though,
to pause right
yeah,
there. I'm
yeah,
35. I need to get a kit right now, okay? Because I can't have any of this. All right, I'm
we're
prevention
ready.
oriented. There we go.
We're ready.
All right, I'm gonna text you my address. Let's get this rolling.
Nice. So yeah, you're right around the demographic of most of our customers. And so all of these are very real risks. And so typically speaking, your youngest and healthiest and your best sperm is going to be when you're around the age of 20, give or take. So if you are thinking about improving your sperm, the good news is that actually a lot of the lifestyle changes that you are likely already making are the same lifestyle changes that are going to help you improve your sperm quality. In fact, your sperm is a great biomarker of your overall health. And
Really?
what's fascinating is, so I test my sperm on a monthly basis because I need to, for the purpose of continuing to test and iterate on our product. I can actually tell when I'm going through stressful periods in my life. Like when we were fundraising our last round of funding, my sperm quality plummeted because I was so stressed out. I was eating badly. I was sleeping badly. So you can actually kind
Really?
of track the ups and downs of your life through your sperm because it is a great overall biomarker of your health.
I think that's such a great point
Yeah.
to actually pause right there.
Yeah.
When we look at every individual system in the human body,
Mm.
we can focus on it, we can improve it, we can work on it, we can heal it, a bone,
Mm.
a muscle,
Yeah.
respiratory system, brain health. It just goes to show you how connected every single one of our systems are to the whole.
Yeah. Yeah.
Stress especially,
Yeah.
and my audience is very privy to this. Recently I've been
Mm.
sharing so much of a recent bout
Mm.
of burnout that I've been going
Mm.
through and how it has
Mm.
presented in my mental health, my physical
Yeah.
health, so
Yeah.
many other areas, and we've had
Yeah.
great experts to talk about this. But
Yeah.
just let that sink in for the listener real quick. The amount of stress that you're under could be preventing you from the future that you want, a family
Yeah.
that you want.
Yeah.
There's direct correlation and causation. I'm hearing
Yeah.
here, and we'll probably
Yeah.
dive in more into the science, but that's
Yeah.
that's that's profound.
It is. It is. It is. And it's one of those things that for a lot of men who come to legacy, it's the first time they've ever really thought about it. It's the first time they've ever really realized that the lifestyle, the lifestyle they live is directly impacting their sperm quality. So some of the good news is, eating a Mediterranean diet has been shown to improve sperm quality. Certain supplements, CoQ10 in particular,
Mm.
has the most scientific evidence on how to improve sperm quality. Certain things like eating tomatoes and eating nuts have been shown to improve sperm quality. But generally speaking, sleeping between 7 to 9 hours a night, maintaining low to moderate amounts of stress, not smoking, minimizing your drinking. I mean, you shouldn't be out and getting blackout drunk because that's going to be terrible for your body and your ability to have kids. All of these things that are things you're already doing to be the best version of you are the very same things that will help you improve your sperm quality.
I agree. Well said. So I guess my next question is, what information did you get and what action did
Yeah.
you take?
Yeah. So it's an interesting question because one of the things that we do today that was missing when I did my test 5 years ago was, I it's kind of like getting a blood test. Those one-page reports, black and white. It's like,
Yeah.
here
Yeah.
are your 27 metrics. Here's the range. But if you're outside of the normal range, you have no idea if this is good, bad. Like, should I be freaking out that I'm, 10 points above the range?
Truly.
Or is this
Yeah.
something your doctor would look at and be like, oh, don't worry, everybody's, plus or minus 10. And that was the kind of result that I got. And I just literally didn't know what to do with it. And so when I started Legacy, one of the things that I insisted on was, we need to be able to give personalized recommendations to every single man who walks through the door. And we need to make sure that we have a hand to, like, literally a hand to hold as they're going through the process, a number they can call, an email address they can write into, so that you're never just kind of left alone and left hanging like that with, for many men, this is kind of the thing that's most important to you, right? Your ability to have kids. And so so what we do now is we generate these personalized recommendations for every man based on the lifestyle they're living. So we ask every guy about 100 questions, your nutrition habits, your sleeping habits, your stress habits, exposure to chemicals, if you're in the military. All of these things can potentially affect your fertility.
Yeah.
And as we then create 3 to 5 personalized recommendations as a result.
That's a really interesting qualifier, I guess, you all bring in there for
Yeah.
the military. I spent 6 years active duty in the Army,
Yeah.
and they're, not to go off on too much of a tangent, but there's a lot of science and studies coming out now that is directly linking in the military and Department of Defense and the Veterans Affairs Department. They're actually, kind of thankfully kind of owning up to a lot of this. I was sharing with you before we hit record, my father passed away from ALS, and he was like 43.
Oh, wow.
And he was a Persian Gulf vet. He was in the Army as well. And the overwhelming amount of studies and cases they're finding of particularly males who are becoming diagnosed and ultimately pass away from Lou Gehrig's disease, about 30%, the last numbers I look, about 30%, or excuse me, there's a 30% higher chance that a male being in the military will contract, or not contract, but be diagnosed with ALS. And the vast majority of males that we're seeing now that are kind of living and now passing away from ALS, not only were in the Army, we're in the military, we're also Persian Gulf vets. So like, what are we exposed to? So exposure to certain things, and even exposure to certain things, chemicals, plus a very heightened stress state, is going to imprint on the body in a very, very unfortunate way. But it's just wild to see what's coming out now in terms of exposure, and especially in the military, and what we can now at least learn about it, so we can hopefully treat it.
Chase, I have so many thoughts on this, and if you let me go for a few minutes, there's a lot of
Please,
points that I want to touch on here. The first is burn pits. There have already been a number of studies suggesting that nothing has been proven just yet. I think it's difficult to get this kind of data, but suggesting that burn pits and exposure to those burn pits have all kinds of unhealthy and negative consequences. Men in the military are about twice as likely to be infertile as men who are not in the military.
Wow, I did not know that.
And when we talk about the very same reasons, and this, look, I'm going to say this is, we don't know anything definitively, but I am convinced that the chemicals that we are exposed to, even just we on a normal day-to-day basis in the household around us, the paint on the walls, the food that we're eating, these chemicals are likely what's causing the decline in sperm counts. In particular, endocrine disruptors, which can stay with you for a very, very long period of time, can affect your future kids. This is coming as a result of the chemicals that we're exposed to. I remember visiting Vietnam about 10 or 15 years ago, and I went to their war museum where a lot of the Vietnamese had been exposed to Agent Orange.
Oh, yeah.
And I mean, seeing that was one of the most traumatic experiences, because you see babies born with 2 heads, missing limbs, like the number of abnormalities that these children were born in. It's similar to, we know that people who are living, near high energy, high radiation sites, nuclear power sites, are more likely to develop cancer. I mean, there's such a clear link between the chemicals we're exposed to and the impact it has on our bodies, our lives, even our fertility. So, for me, I actually care a lot about making sure that anyone who is in the military does have the chance to have a kid, right? Because not only are they at risk of being wounded in action or killed in action, but they might just be exposed to chemicals in action. And like you said, it's stress, it's lack of sleep. You're in a foreign, you're in a war zone. You're exposed to all these chemicals. And so one of the things that we did is, so we brought on the former secretary of the VA, Veterans Affairs, David Shulkin.
Oh,
So he
wow.
joined us as an advisor about 6 months ago, a little longer actually. Him and I chat every month. We're working on legislation that might help mandate some
Wow.
fertility benefits for folks in the military. We just closed. I unfortunately can't share any details yet, but we have a very exciting military partnership that we will announce over the next few months,
Wow.
with folks who are in the military. I mean, it's such a big market, and if you are out there serving your country, if you are out there literally risking your life and limb to protect your country, I think the least your country can do is help make sure that when you come back, you can have a family of your own.
Wow. I did not know that. You guys
Yeah.
just got a whole nother level of respect for me. That's amazing.
Yeah.
I mean, I think back to, w- I don't think anybody in the military,
Mm.
regardless of the branch, will forget, basic training or however
Yeah.
they entered. And one of the very first memories I have is going through just an in processing. We call it kind of, it was like week 0. It actually wasn't boot
Yeah.
camp. It didn't count yet, but it still
Yeah.
sucked. And one of the first things that they had us do was to set up a bank account. If
Mhm.
you didn't have one, for direct deposit, getting payments. So they're beginning to introduce financial, health and responsibility. Then
Mhm.
after that, you had to directly link your next of kin. God
Mhm.
forbid anything happened to you, who do we call, who do we
Yeah.
contact? And then thirdly, it was life insurance. So
Mm.
right away, the very first few things, besides buzzing your
Yeah.
head, that they set you up for is
Yeah.
a little bit of some financial health and awareness. Alerting your family and taking care of your family and your
Mm.
legacy
Mm.
if something should happen to you.
Yeah.
I mean, knowing these new numbers and thinking back to, yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely. If, something were to happen to me, or, I knew so many people who unfortunately came back from their
Mm.
tour of duty, not able to have kids,
Yeah.
um,
Yeah.
missing
Yeah.
limbs, burns.
Yeah. Yeah.
And
Or
if
even
that
just
was,
some of the PTSD. I mean,
yeah,
the
exactly.
the rates of erectile dysfunction that come from men who've been in the military, because you're traumatized by what you're seeing. So the amount of money that actually gets spent, I don't know if you know this, but it was almost like a scandal that came out about how much the military was spending on Viagra for its vets. But actually the Viagra was being purchased
Wow.
because these people were having issues, getting and maintaining an erection because of all
Yeah.
the PTSD that they were having.
Wow. So, I mean, imagine if this was
Yeah.
another component going into military service, to where, hey, we're setting your
Yeah.
future self up for success. And, the same way that, they enroll you in
Yeah.
education benefits. It's why shouldn't this also be a form of, prevention and future proofing, basically?
We're working on it.
Amazing. I love that. I love that. So then let's dive into like the kit actually.
Yeah.
This, I love where we are now in 2021. So many things are coming to the people.
Yeah.
I like to kind of call this the Amazon Prime Now generation. We can get
Yeah.
what we want when we want, and usually we can get it yesterday.
Yeah.
And I love seeing now health and wellness items coming
Mhm.
in. We can get,
Yeah.
a 23andMe, Everly Well, we can get
Yeah.
Vessel, we can get Levels,
Yeah.
all these other great
Yeah.
biomarker tests. So what are
Yeah.
we getting when we get this product?
Yeah. So it's funny you say that. Actually, I'm looking at the levels box that I just received a few days ago,
Yeah, yeah.
and I will, before I get into the kit, I will mention, COVID actually in my opinion, permanently accelerated a pre-existing trend, which is people wanting more and more of these kinds of at-home consumer healthcare products to help them better understand their body. And it's not just biohackers who want to know this; it's just everyday people who want to understand, how are we doing? What's making it worse? What's making it better? I track my sleep. I track my food. I mean, I think, I imagine a lot of your
I
listeners
got
are
two
as
right
well.
here. I
Boom,
double
there
dip.
you,
I do have
yeah,
Whoop
there
and
you
my
go. You got
Apple
the
Watch. I'm
Whoop and
sure.
you got the Apple
Yeah.
Watch. And it's just part of wanting to know more about your body. So COVID actually, we have grown our revenue about 25 times since the start of COVID, in part because
Wow.
for the first few months, and we doubled it again in Q1 of this year.
Congratulations.
But thank you. I just wanted to throw that one out there. And a big part of it is this trend has been accelerated because people are more and more comfortable with having at-home healthcare services. And I am just convinced that this is the next wave of the future. Why go to see a doctor for a basic, simple test where you need to go in and wait for an hour and book weeks in advance, when you can literally just order a kit online? It's shipped. We do priority overnight shipping. You order a kit right now, you're literally going to get it tomorrow morning at no
Wow.
extra cost
Amazing.
to you, right? We do it like that. So the kit itself, we've done a few things with the kit. So the first is we've designed the special insulated kit that basically keeps your sperm safe during transport. It comes with two components to it. The first is, the empty deposit cup, which is what you ejaculate into. And then there's a buffering medium, which is a sperm preservative that we use, that helps keep sperm alive for up to 48 hours or longer in transit. So what that means is, instead of your sperm losing its quality and its motility within an hour, which is most common with sperm, this actually significantly extends its lifespan. What this allows us to do is, we send you the kit, you ejaculate into the deposit cup, you add the sperm preservative, close it back up, put it back in the box. We actually just launched a new feature where you just push a button and FedEx comes to your house to pick it up. You don't need to call FedEx. You don't need to do anything. You literally go onto our website, you push a button saying, I'm ready for pickup. Boom. A few hours later, they come and pick it up, which is just cool. It's just cool. We make it easy.
Just when I thought I couldn't get any lazier. Wow, that's amazing.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Exactly. And so what happens is, we then do priority overnight shipping. We own our own lab in San Antonio, Texas. So we send it over to the lab. We do a full semen analysis, start to finish. We put it into cryo storage, and then we freeze it for future use. And one thing that we do that I think is particularly cool is, we actually ship your sample. So we divide your sperm into 4 vials. 2 of them go to one location, 2 of them go to a different location. So we actually freeze your sperm in multiple locations. We call it multi-geography storage in different states, so that even if Texas has a flood or hurricanes the way it did recently, or Godzilla, descends upon New York or what have you, your sperm is still going to be safe.
You are future-proofing.
Yeah. We are future-proofing. We're the only company. Wow. We're the only. It blows my mind. We're the only company to ever have thought of doing this, because it introduces operational complexity for sure, introduces some extra cost for sure. But if you want your customers to be with you for decades, then you have to make sure that everything will be protected for decades. It's not a joke.
Well, so then what are people finding? It's relatively new, I'll say. It's 2018. So here we are, 2021, 2-3 years. Are you finding within this time span now, guys are actually like, it's working, they're getting, they're able to like seal the deal and then, come back and kind of reap the rewards of their early work?
Yeah. We've already had 5,000 men who've gone through the process with us. We'll probably double or triple that number this year alone. And here's, I'll share a few interesting things that we're finding. By and large, interest. I said when we first met, sperm is in vogue these days. Sperm has become cool, and I know this is the weirdest thing to say, but sperm has actually become like, it's covered everywhere in the mainstream media right now. Every publication we alone as Legacy have been in the New York Times, the Washington Post, the Financial Times, the Economist, and so on and so forth. But just the topic of fertility has come up in a big way, because the world is saying, and we are saying, hey, men are part of the equation too. Fertility is not just a women's issue. It's not something that if you're in a heterosexual couple, it's not just something that your partner needs to think about. It's something you both need to be thinking about and working on and addressing. It takes 2 to tango. And men not just should, but men want to be stepping up. Men want to be a good partner. They want to be a good husband. They want to be a good father.
Absolutely. Yeah.
And this is more true than it's ever been in the past. And so and again, I'll share something that is not quite public yet. But over the next few months, we will be announcing a round of investment from a number of celebrities. Even celebrities are getting in the mix. We have probably had at least a dozen A-list celebrities who have frozen their sperm with us already. The one that I'm most excited about, and we haven't actually done it yet, but as a Khaled myself, I'm just very excited for DJ Khaled to potentially invest in the company. I just think it'd be hilarious. No other reason.
I can see the mixtape cover art now. It's going to be it's going to be a summer banger, no doubt.
Yeah. You masturbated once, another one. It's one of the major keys.
You should if you do that collaboration, anytime you do that kit, that button when you click on our website,
it just yells out, "We the best."
Straight up, that's going to be what sells some people. They're going to be, I'm on the fence. Shit, I don't know. Khaled's on there.
We the best.
My kid's the best.
Yeah.
But it's so true. I mean, we're laughing and joking now, but it is a very serious matter, and it could be. And that's a big part of what I am most excited about now, and definitely what I'm so grateful for, to have conversations with people like you on this platform, is because we can destigmatize a lot of things.
Exactly.
As we're recording now,
Exactly.
May 2021, it's National Mental Health Awareness Month,
Yeah.
and I'm on a mission to like talk even more openly about my
Yeah.
personal journey and bring on other people, because
Yeah.
that it has been such an instrumental component to my total holistic
Yeah.
wellness that often goes
Yeah.
overlooked, especially for people in the military. Fertility is another thing. There are all these things that we're quote not supposed to talk about, or not supposed to talk about in certain situations. And sure, you need to dance around certain things, be read your audience kind of thing, but it all matters. It
Yeah.
all matters if we want to be here for the long haul.
It is, Chase. It is guys like you who are shaping the conversation in a much, I mean, you already know this, but probably in a much bigger way than you even realize. For a guy like you, a good looking, well educated, smart guy, to come out and say, hey, I've been struggling with mental health. We just started working with Brian Mazza, who's a pretty well known
Yeah,
guy in the
yeah, yeah,
health and
yeah,
fitness
yeah.
space. He came out and talked about infertility. He came out and talked about struggles with his male fertility. And again, well built, handsome, good looking,
Mhm.
successful guy who's in phenomenal shape to come out and talk about this. It just tells everyone who's listening, look, you know, everyone has issues, everyone has problems. And to be able to talk about it openly, to help destigmatize it, I mean, that is what is going to help us have kids who are going to grow up in a world where it's okay to talk about mental health. It's
Mhm.
okay to talk about sexual health. It's okay to talk about these kinds of topics that for our generation are much, much more stigmatized. So I really commend the work that you're doing.
Thank you, thank you. And it actually it goes beyond that. Whether or not this impacts hopefully at least just one person, it
Yeah.
impacts me and my family.
Yeah.
I grew up in the Bible Belt, Southern
Mhm.
Virginia,
Yeah.
and my wife grew up a Persian American, first
Yeah.
generation Persian family,
Yeah.
and our households. Sex was one of those things that you just like
You don't talk
didn't
about it.
talk about.
You don't talk about it. Yeah.
And if you do, it's like wait till marriage kind of thing. And even then, it's like we don't talk about it.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
I give my dad a little bit of grace. God rest his soul. I mean, him and I had definitely a few sidebar conversations. Just guy to guy. But in general, these conversations were not being had in our families.
Yeah.
And just the other day, May, my wife and I were talking about we want to talk about sex with our kids. We want to talk about this, mental health. We want to talk about all the things that now us, she's in her late 20s, I'm in my early 30s, that we're just now both
Yeah.
individually exploring
Yeah.
and therefore exploring together. Imagine the next generation, imagine the wave of people we could bring in if these conversations were had in a safe environment sooner, so that there's less stigma,
Yeah.
hopefully no stigma, and the next generation can make empowering decisions sooner for their health.
Completely agree.
That's what we're here for, man.
Yeah.
Well, I want to be mindful of your time. It's been great
Mhm.
having you on here on the show here. And before we kind of get to the final question in the end, where can my audience go to learn more about you and what Legacy has to
Yeah.
offer?
Yeah. So check us out at www.givelegacy.com, like GIVE. Whether you're a getter or a giver, we givelegacy.com. You can find us on Instagram. It's not very clean, but it's Give Legacy Inc. on Instagram. Twitter, we're just Legacy. And reach out anytime. The whole team's available at help at givelegacy.com, info at givelegacy.com, Khaled at givelegacy.com. You name it, we're there. Just give us a shout anytime.
We'll have it all down in the show notes for everybody to check out.
Awesome.
I'm really excited to dive more in. Like I said earlier, I'm 35, and
Yeah. You said early 30s recently.
I got to start. True.
Yeah.
I got to start saying mid 30s. Like I'll be
Yeah.
36 in October.
Yeah.
It's crazy, man. I
Wow.
still feel like I'm 16.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
my wife and I, we're getting into the phase now where we're talking about we want to, begin to have children, and it's, these are the things that we often kind of just take for granted. Oh, we want to do
Yeah.
something. We want to act on something in our life. Well, sometimes you need to kind of know what you're working with,
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, Khaled, living a life ever forward, this is what it's all about. It's becoming aware of all these things that help move the needle in
Yeah.
one area or all the areas of our life. So I'm curious, what does that mean to you? How do you live a life ever forward?
Yeah. I what you talk about a lot in my team, and something I care a lot about is this idea of, you don't have to be taking massive strides every single day. Sometimes it's okay to take one tiny little step forward and just be like, you know what, today I reorganized my bookcase, whatever. And it's kind of this idea of, well, if you take 1.01, right, like 1% growth, and you do that to the power of 365, or you compare that to 0.99, and that's 1% step backwards every day, and you do that to the power of 365. I mean, the difference between the two is so profound. And to me, it's just just a little step forward every day. That's it. And over time, those gains will compound. Whether you're bench pressing, 1 pound more every day, doesn't matter, as long as it's a little bit more, and those gains add up over time. So that's what I think about, and that's what I hope to do with my company, my life, and build a big successful business, but also be a good partner, husband, father, son, and hopefully a good part of society.
Well said, man. Well said. There's never a right or a wrong
Yeah.
answer. So I appreciate your insight on that.
Yeah.
Again, we're going to have all of your information and Legacy's information
Awesome.
for people to check out down in the show notes. Guys, just
Yeah.
scroll down to episode resources to learn more. And it's been great, man. Thank you so much for the work that you're doing and bringing this to life.
Awesome. Thank you so much for having me, Chase.